So I got a chance to watch the two-part Star Wars Rebels Season 4 premiere, Heroes of Mandalore, Part 1 and 2. This is, of course, the final season of Star Wars Rebels, and they want to end this thing with a bang. And I covered Star Wars Rebels on my other channel, Geekdom 101, but I'm moving the Star Wars supplementary content over here to World of Geekdom. Geekdom 101 has the old stuff, and I think it'll stay here, even though Rebels is a TV show, not a movie. It's part of the Star Wars universe, so I figure it's best to cover it over here. So, Star Wars Rebels Season 4 premiere. I've been looking forward to this now since we got a teaser of it back during Celebration in April. And I had not seen, because I was not at the panel, I did not see that preview they gave of the first episode up there. I didn't get to see it. So this is my first time actually watching Rebels Season 4, Episode 1 and 2. And I gotta say that I was very disappointed. I'm really looking forward to this season because I'm hoping they're going to actually have some balls and really push things to the limit, because these characters, we're going to say goodbye to them at the end of the season, most likely, unless they bring them back in a movie or another TV show or something. But this is going to be the end for Ezra, Kanan, Sabine, and all these characters. And I'm really hoping that this season ends up being a bigger, more badass season, because I felt that seasons 2 and 3 had some great storylines, but there was a lot of filler. Like, there were a lot of episodes I just didn't care about. And to be brutally honest, I've never really cared about Sabine that much. She's never been that interesting of a character to me. And this episode was primarily focused on her. So I already was going into it like, well, let's see what happens. I didn't like the fact that in the first half of the episode was goofy. And I didn't like it. Ezra's back to being like season 1 Ezra, where he's just a clown show half the time. And the story just kind of bored me. Like, there were some interesting action shots in the beginning, but I was just, to be honest, I was bored. I was very bored watching the first half of this these two-part episodes. I guess it'd be Heroes of Mandalore Part 1. So they brought back Bo-Katan, and without going into any major spoilers, Bo-Katan was all over the Clone Wars TV show, and in this episode, or at least in this two-part, I guess you can say, these two episodes, the whole story is that they have to get together and take down this Imperial weapon that could end up being a problem in the future. Now, again, this could be my bias, but as a fan of Star Wars, I'm usually a fan who gravitates towards the story of the Jedi, the Sith, the light and the dark side, the good and the bad, dark Jedi. That's the stuff that I think is the most interesting stuff about Star Wars. I don't really care too much about Mandalore. I never really have, to be honest with you. The Mandalorian story has been not one that I've been too invested in, and maybe it's because I haven't looked into it myself, but this episode really focused a lot on the Mandalorian story and on the history of Sabine, and because of that, it just wasn't that interesting. Now, I will say this, though. Part 2 definitely picked up a lot more. Part 2 was very interesting because the conclusion of this episode, without going into spoilers, I thought was very interesting, but I wonder if it's going to actually be the end of this storyline, or if we're going to see more of this by the time the finale ends up airing sometime early next year. That's something I'm interested in, because it feels like this is not the end of the story. And if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. So there was this bait and switch during the episode where you think that something happens to Sabine's relatives, and it turns out that, it's not what you think happened, and that was just kind of off-putting. Like, I'm over here thinking, whoa, like, they're opening this season out with a bang, and it wasn't. It was just immediately taken away. It's one of those things where the episode wasn't terrible, both of them, Heroes of Mandalore 1 and 2, even though 2, I think, was more exciting and more fun. It wasn't horrible or anything. It was just, compared to, again, I was kind of bored, but also when you compare it to the season 2 and 3 premieres, which I thought were just freaking amazing, especially season 2. Season 2 had one of the best premieres ever. I mean, that's still my favorite one, but it was kind of a letdown. And I was wondering, last season when they had the Obi-Wan Darth Maul episode, which I absolutely loved, I was wondering how they were going to be able to really keep my attention this season, because the whole idea of Ezra and Kanan dealing with Darth Maul, I thought, is really one of the major plot points that made Rebels such a fun show, and the one that I was really looking forward to. And when they kind of dropped that, by having Maul get killed by Obi-Wan on Tatooine, it was just kind of like, okay, now what? That's how I took it. Plus, I still didn't see much of Thrawn in this episode, and I'm waiting to see why he's such a badass. They still haven't really hammered that home yet. So it wasn't a terrible premiere, but it definitely was very underwhelming. I was not a fan of it. I'm still gonna watch Rebels. Don't get me wrong, but I thought this was a big letdown. So, what do you think? Did you like the season 4 premiere? Do you think they're gonna do better later on? Let me know your thoughts, and I thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day.